Hi, I'm Radhika, and my novel is called The Pet Post Secret. It's a children's novel, a kind of a thriller, I guess. But yeah, these guys will
Yeah.
have more thrilling tales to tell, I
Then
think.
we have Vish. Can you introduce us to your novel?
Oh, yeah, my upcoming novel is Bhendi Bazaar, which is a notorious area in Mumbai, and I think we'll talk more about it as we go forward. And
And we're back to Farad.
Yes, hi. So my this is the second novel in my Bombay trilogy. The first one was Scandal Point, which is a social satire. Flashpoint is actually a thriller set in the world of the paparazzi of Bombay and also commercial photography, the glamour photography, and it's really about people who come to Bombay to make it and their dreams and aspirations
All right.
and deceit.
Yeah. Okay. So, like we were discussing earlier, we were actually people. We were talking near the book stand. We were discussing earlier that crime and thriller. So, we were discussing like, is crime and thriller different? What would you say, Kulpreet?
Hello everyone. Is crime and thriller different? I won't say so because crime is thrilling. And some thoughts about crime. I think crime is an integral part of our society. It has always remained so and will be so in the foreseeable future. So, yeah, that's it.
I think crime and thriller can be different. I think often they are the same. Most crime novels are thrilling. But you can have a lot of thrillers without there being any kind of criminal component. I think a thriller is more about character. It's a character driven story where you empathize with one character who is either being chased or targeted or whatever, for whatever reason. Crime is, I guess, more plot centric. So I think they can be different.
I tend to agree with Radhika on that they can be different, not necessarily so. Thriller is more, I would, in my opinion, would be more action based. So it need not have a crime. Crime has to have an essential plot, a kind of a who's done it. It need not be who done it, but still a kind of a mystery that somebody's done something wrongful, and the detection and getting to the end of it. The hook, it's crime itself. It need not have a lot of action, which a thriller needs to have. So that's my.
Well, I'd have to say that some writing can be particularly unthrilling, and that's quite criminal. Uh, and at the same time, of course, these can be mutually exclusive. There is no reason why there are wonderful thrillers written that don't necessarily have crime, but certainly within the kindred sort of sentiments of deceit or corruption and all of that. And so yes, I mean there is that, but. We, we need to understand that writing badly is a crime.
No, let me share my thoughts again because when you asked me this question, I was a little foxed. Maybe it's a cold or something. When you said crime, I thought you were talking about crime in the society. But talking about genres, crime and thriller, I think thriller is a larger umbrella under which crime novels, spy and espionage novels, police procedurals, all these exist. So, and they're all thrilling. So, I mean, thriller is a larger umbrella under which all these exist. And that's how it is. Yeah.
But aren't the crime novels completely different? Like you take J.K. Rowling's new novels. They're about a private detective. That's a crime novel. It's not a thriller.
It is a thriller. I think, to my knowledge, it is a thriller because it's detective fiction. And then I said, crime fiction, detective fiction, spy, espionage, all these are thrillers. It's a thrilling book to read. Thriller is a very loose term that is used to talk about the kind of books. So yes, it is. To my mind, it is a thriller. Yeah.
What do you think about reality? How much reality does a book need?
What, fiction? Well, it doesn't need reality. The reality is that, I mean, the real life is more fictional and more untruthful than fiction these days. In fact, I was talking to someone that there are things in this world that have happened which, if they hadn't happened and any one of us had tried putting it in fiction, we would have been sent to a mental asylum. And the guy who was talking to me said, "Oh, you're just saying it for the argument purpose." I said, "No. Think about 9/11. If somebody had just written a book saying somebody would fly an aircraft into a building, people would have laughed." So the truth is actually in this case more fictional than any fiction that you can write. Fiction does inspire people, and reality inspires fiction as well. So I guess it goes both ways.
Well, unless and until there is truth to be found in a book, it will never transcend just being commercial or mass. It won't even qualify as literature. I think the whole reason that you turn to literature is because you find life truths in it. And this is wonderful trilogy of The Hobbit with J.R.R. Tolkien, and that's the ultimate sort of fantasy. But at the end of it, there's a wonderful line from the Dwarf King, and he says, if more people liked home, preferred home than gold, the world would be a merrier place. And what could be a bigger truth than that? So you will have to find great truths in fiction, if it is going to speak to you in a way that is of any consequence.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. It's not about reality as reality exists. It's about speaking truths through whatever medium that you're choosing. I mean, my book is about a squirrel, a mongoose, a dog, and a crow. It's not. There's nothing real about that, but the truths and the hopefully the message and the action is something that can resonate with anyone. So it's about the message that you're conveying, and that needs to be real.
I think at many different levels, reality is actually truth, because it's after all a story, and story is nothing but sequence of events. And when you decide to pen them down, you concentrate them, and you can call it concentrated form of reality.
What I meant was, how much reality do you put in a book? When you see a murder, how much would you choose to share it with the reader?
I think
I guess that depends on the subgenre of a book that you're writing. In my current book, which is a serial killer story, now, whatever you've known about I'm sure none of you have met one in real life, neither have I. But serial killers just don't shoot and go away. It has to be a dark scene. They would mutilate, because it's for a serial killer, it's an art. I'm not saying it's a good art or it's something that we should follow, but for him or her, it's an art, and at that point, it would dig things into the body, which not something that I would hold it for a public consumption. And how much do you want to show? You might have to show it once for the reader to understand, and then you can leave it to imagination. So I would say, depending on the story, how much of it do you want to show and how much you want to leave it to the imagination of the reader is something that the author would have to take a call on. You cannot keep showing the gore again, and again, unless the story demands it 5 times. Say it once, let others imagine it. But you can't just leave everything to imagination.
The thing about this world that we live in is that it is so twisted and macabre that truth will always be stranger than fiction. No matter what shit you make up, you will find that there is such other twisted stuff going on out there. So reality is far more a slap in the face than anything that you might be able to find in fiction.
how close it should be to reality? I think it should be close to the extent that a person who's reading your work is able to understand and appreciate that something like this is possible. I'm talking about writing thrillers that when you're writing about, let's say, spies, or you're writing about serial killers, so you have to write it in a manner that the person who's reading understands that such a kind of an act is possible, and it is not that you just talking about bizarre things. It may not be so for certain other genres like fantasy, for example, where you just let your imagination run amok and you just conjure up anything and just put it up. But thrillers, I think they have to be as close to reality as possible. You really do not have room to distance from the truth and from the reality, at least to the extent that the people can understand it. I hope I'm able to.
I guess I'd just like to, what he said is right. It should be believable. It shouldn't be totally, unless you're saying it's like Harry Potter. So you don't have to believe it's aspirational, it's imaginary, but yeah, it has to be believable.
But then doesn't it become more gruesome, especially when we're talking about serial killers, crime? Doesn't it become very gruesome?
It would, but you would. I mean, if I go back to the biggest film ever made in India, which in my mind and my generation, I'm not so young as I look, but was Sholay. I guess there was a gruesome scene of chopping off somebody's arms. So, but the story demanded it. So if the story demands it,
Sorry, there was no scene of chopping of arms.
exactly.
That is the beauty of it. It is the power of suggestion.
Yeah.
He remembers his favorite film of all time for a scene that never existed.
so that's the power of his storytelling.
Precisely. I think that's why. I'm sorry I had to interject because it's such an important thing. The fact is, you see the sword going up, and that's it. And Haath mujhe de de Thakur, and that's it. Thakur's hands do not get chopped off. It is, And similarly, the climax of the film actually had Sanjeev Kumar kicking him to death, and the censors didn't want that. They didn't want a police officer, ex-police officer, also taking the law into his own hands. In this case, he didn't have any hands, so taking the law into his own legs. But even so,
Stand corrected. Stand corrected.
So, like you just said, serial killers. Like there is a running series. It's a TV series also now, Dexter. It has a whole lot of gruesome scenes. If you read the book, it's really dark. So, do you think we lose readers there?
I guess you wouldn't lose readers, but if there is an essential part of being a gruesome scene that can give a clue, I guess I would put it in there. But I can understand it might alienate some people, but that's the story. So if you are not, and it's not, I've tried to make it as non-dark as possible, but the reality is you can't. If you're putting a serial killer in there, you have to have a dark scene for people to understand the kind of twisted mind of a killer, and so would the police need that to get to the killer, is what I'm trying to say. So I haven't tried to make it starts with blood and ends with blood, but there is blood.
Also, I think there's a point to be made about you can't write to please your reader. You have to write what you want to write, and then you hope that people like it. If you're writing about a serial killer, you have to write about a serial killer. He's going to kill people. It's up to you as a writer to be as descriptive or hold anything back. That's your craft. That's your choice. But you have to do what you want to do, not what is going to alienate somebody else. Do your best job, and hopefully that'll be good enough.
Just a point on that the book isn't as gruesome as if you pick up any day's newspaper these days. So it's not as bad as any of the newspapers and massacres.
Sex and violence are integral to all. It's so primal, and given that there's such a huge audience and viewership for these things, the readership for these things, that therefore, whether it's Game of Thrones or whether it's Dexter or any of that, you see more and more graphic violence being played out. This is a renaissance era for television in the world. In terms of thing, and you see the amount of sex and violence that is, on shows that are actually very, very well made shows. And it's probably a manifestation of the fact that A, you're cutting loose, B, the fact that the readers, audiences want to see this, and more power to them. Why not? Once people tire of that, there will be a return to romance and fluff and vampires and
They're already vampires. Yeah. Kulpreet, you want to add something to that?
No, I think I've said that before, and I agree with the fellow panelists. You're talking about dark, how much dark to put in a novel or in a story. I think that's a fine balance that you need to arrive at, because that's how a society is. So a good story will reflect the society as it exists. So it'll have dark side to it and not so dark side to it.
All right. So tell me something. Like, you guys are all thriller writers. Now, how has thrillers changed according to decades after decades? We started from Bond to today. What do you see which has changed?
Oh, I think it predates Bond thrillers.
Yeah, I'm just-
I understand, but I'm saying that there's a long literary tradition of that, but the thing with writing and literature particularly is that it is timeless, ageless. Edgar Allan Poe, I mean, his the kind of macabre violence that you have in that, The Fall of the House of Usher, all these. This is a great writer of thriller and of the macabre and all of that. And we're talking about now a long time ago. Bond and other Johnny Come Latelys are so it's and these things are timeless.
I guess I agree with him on this one. Is everything's changed and nothing has. So, picking up your point, James Bond, which was what, 60s when it came in?
I think World War II, right? Because Ian Fleming started writing then.
Okay, and then you have Jack Reacher today. Nothing's changed actually. It's just the setting has changed, the kind of tools they use. It's still that hero fighting against the odds. One was fighting these spies in Russia. James Bond, once the Cold War was over, has no existence, but they keep kind of playing him back again and again because he's kind of made a mark himself. So, yeah, the ways, the methods, the writing might have changed, but largely it has remained the same, and still everything's changed.
I feel I tend to slightly disagree with you, and that might be because of the reason that I write spy thrillers. As far as the spies are concerned, you mentioned James Bond, and someone mentioned Jack Reacher, or some character like that. So technology has changed so much around us. Now it is just not possible for anybody to hide anything, and I think in today's time it has become really difficult to write thrillers. And I know of certain writers who would like to set their novel in the 60s or in the 50s because there's so much of room to play around, so much that a spy can do. And because of technology, spies have very little space. So I think it's more difficult. Like, for example, talking about my novel, it is set in 2013. And it is a story of a 29-year-old faceless Indian spy who's moving around. So how to have that kind of a spy with the kind of technology that already exists for both sides, the good guys and the bad guys, is a real challenge. So I think to answer your question, it has become, for writers, their task has become more difficult to write at least spy thrillers. But yes, I tend to agree that the basic elements, of course, the greed or the murder or such type of things have remained same.
No, and I think it has, the story remains the same for the most part. But have any of you heard of this thing, the podcast that has come out, Serial, right? And and that's a whole new format of telling a thriller story. Maybe it's not about the story, it's what's changed perhaps might be the medium of delivery and engaging with the reader in a different way. So I don't know, might be a different concept.
In what sense do you mean?
As in, it's something that was written, it's a story that is now being delivered over.
Oh, you mean an audiobook version?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a podcast. It comes out every week. It's
Yeah.
like a serial book read you
Yeah,
know, it's
I used to do that.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
it's a different way to tell a story.
Right.
So maybe
Okay.
that's a change that could be happening. It might not be in the content, but
I see.
Well, I mean, just picking up from what she said, I mean, there are Twitter novels on Twitter. So, in that sense, yes, I mean, the mediums of delivery are different. The technology, 2014, it has to be a contemporary spy thriller. Espionage has changed exponentially. The demons have changed. Your villains have changed. Your heroes have changed. So that is all extraneous. But at the core of it, I think, these things are timeless.
What I'm wondering is the detailing different now in a book from, say, about 2 decades ago?
Yeah, detailing is definitely changed, and I think the reason for that is to do with the readers, because the attention span of the readers and the kind of distraction that he has changed quite a bit. There is internet, there is telephone, there is television, and television was of course there, but new very attractive formats are existing. So for a writer to hold on to the reader's attention, you really cannot spend too much time with your descriptions. You have to write it in a manner that every word counts, every punctuation counts. So it has to be very, very tight prose. I'm someone who loves short stories, and I think short stories is a good way to start for anyone who's looking at writing long form prose, because in short stories you understand the economy of emotions than the way it will be acceptable today to the people. And more so, there are now stories of 1,000 words, 500 words, Twitter stories. So these are the things. So I think yes, it has changed. The way we write, the way we pace our prose has changed quite a bit, and I really don't know what future holds for us. Perhaps there might be something even shorter than Twitter.
It'll be called a twit.
I'm going to open up for questions. Are there any questions there? No questions?
I have a question for the audience.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I have a couple of questions for the audience, because the audience is just warming up to ask questions to us. And the question is, how many of you want to be writers in your life? Can I have a show of hands? Please be very frank. How many of you want to be writers? That's fantastic. Hands down now. And how many of you want to be spies? Spies.
You're the same
जासूस
man. You're the
जासूस
same
किस
man
किसको
who
बनना
wanted
है?
to be a Bollywood actor, and you want to be a spy, dude. Make up your mind.
So how many for spies? So a little bit of marketing trick. All those who want to be or want to become spies and don't want to go read those fat books, Catching the Departed is a story of a spy made simple. So, so it's available for sale, and perhaps you can pick your copies from there.
I've read it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Any parting comments from you guys?
Again, the answer
When's
is slightly
lunch?
related to what is
I've got lunch coupons. I've got coupons, I'll give it to you.